Esther Mothoni came from Molo, which is one of the areas that was badly affected by the skirmishes that we had in Kenya because of the election dispute. She is 2.5 years. She came here with her grandmother, very, very tired. Esther was totally traumatized, couldn't be held by anybody. She just wanted to run for her life. And we took her and her grandmother. It was actually through her grandmother that we learned about the plight of all the others.
So, Peter, when we read that there are 1,000 to 1,500 dead because of this, their parents are among those.
Their parents are amongst these ones. Well, we were doing the crisis counseling for these ones. They started drawing. Some of them drew their father, their grandfather, because it's mostly men that were killed. And they would draw them. They would draw stick figures with soil covering them. And I would ask them, what happened? They would say, they buried them. They left their parents behind. And so it's been very, very difficult because they'll never see their parents again. But they are beginning a new life. So what we are doing here is a lot of counseling as well as a lot of love. The laughter you are hearing, we are sure it's going to be medicine for them. Let me just narrate and say what happened. Actually, I was here with the other school children, the normal school children. And then suddenly I see an old grandma with several children. And she came and immediately she got into our compound. She felt at peace. And she spread her kanga, her shuka, and sat down.
Right here?
Yes. And I said to her, why are you here? She looked at me. Instead of crying, she smiled and she said, are you Pastor Peter? I said, yes, I'm Pastor Peter. Then you're the person I'm looking for. My son, who is a drunkard, told me to come here and you give me food and shelter. And I said to her, where do you come from? She said she's come from the Rift Valley. They've burnt their house, and then she narrated the story. That's how I got to be with these ones, with Esther and the rest of the children who are displaced.
And she had the child with her?
She had Esther with her, and she had several other children who did not belong to her.
So this one grandmother had brought all these children by herself?
She had 5. Because what would happen is, if they were burning the houses, the women had to run away with whichever children that were near them. It didn't matter whether the child was yours or not. You just it's the motherly instinct.
Yeah.
They would just grab the child and go. And so most of them ended up with children who were not theirs, hoping that somebody had rescued their babies. Cool. Because we have 50 other families, okay, who come once a week. And we make a meal for them. We also give them food to take away. We give them, corn flour to take away home with beans and fruits and vegetables, just to take away. We also provide them with cooking oil and soap.
And is the community helping? Have you found good collaboration from the community?
The community was overwhelming. They have given support. You're talking of a community that is not very well to do, but they welcomed them in their families. They accommodated them. They gave them extra room, room that had nothing, but it was room. And then later, some of them have said to them, okay, you can occupy that room, because some had rental houses. You can occupy that room as long as you are here in Ruiru. Others gave clothes and foodstuffs. We had all sorts of clothes being donated that we were able to distribute to these people, and foodstuffs as well.
So, Anne, tell me, you have some extra children. Where'd they come from?
Most of them have come from the troubled areas. They've come from El Bagon, from Burnt Forest, from Bungoma and other places, and from Madare slums. And when they came with their parents, they just arrived one morning and we didn't know what to do with them. But we felt that we needed to do something about these children. So we talked to some well-wishers, our neighbors at home, the church members, and we told them the need to give us food, because at the time that they arrived, what they badly needed was food and clothing. As for shelter, we couldn't do anything about that. And then a couple of days later, we organized ourselves to see what more we could do for them. So we decided that the school-going age children, that we could accommodate in our children, would just come and get into the school routine, because that would help them forget what they had been going through.
What had they been going through? What do you think they came from?
Most of them had witnessed very, very scaring scenes. And when they came to us, they looked very scared. Some of them would often cry. Others would run around the compound. And we found it very difficult to interpret their behavior. And so we thought that the best thing would be to call a counselor so that she could talk to the teachers. And they would get to know how to handle these children. Now, the counselors came and had a session with the teachers so that they would learn how to cope with these children. And then afterwards, they had 2 separate sessions with the children. First of all with the younger children, and then with the older children. And in course of the sessions, we made the younger children, the counselor made the younger children do some drawings. And after they did the drawings, we got a one-to-one session with the children so that they could tell us what pictures they had drawn. Just give us a story about their pictures. And that is how the children went on to explain how their houses had gotten burnt, how some of the members of their families had been killed. And as they told these stories, they would cry, they would break down and cry. And so we realized that these children needed a lot of love, and they needed somebody to listen to them, because that was going to be part of healing. So with time, the children have the teachers have taken time to have a session one-to-one with the children, so that the children can pour out what is within their hearts.
And what about their grandmothers or the mothers that brought them? Is there anything for them?
Once in a week, we do give the mothers and the grandmothers a ration of food. Sometimes it will be flour, rice, and beans. Sometimes it will be beans and flour and cooking oil and bar soap, so that they can be able to clean their clothes. Thankfully, the Red Cross came in to give them a ration that would sustain them for a few days. Unfortunately, now that the situation is coming back to normal, the Red Cross isn't doing anything for them. And we have felt that even though we do not have a lot to give, at least we can give them some food that can keep them going for a few days. So every once a week, particularly on Fridays, we get all these families together and we give them food. Then we encourage them so that they know that this is not the end of life. They still hope for tomorrow. Then part of what we have done to help the mamas and the grandmothers is to connect them with prospective employers. We've talked to our church members and to our neighbors in the community, and we've told them that if they have any manual jobs that they can give to these people, then they could always contact us, and then we get in touch with these displaced persons so that they can get these manual jobs. So that way they are able to fend for their families, and that will supplement what we give them.